Hey, greetings, Gary with Let It Be RV again, and we're in the kitchen now with Ken from the garden from yesterday. Look at that smirk. But anyway, so Kenny's going to explain the whole process of how he dehydrates eggs and saves them for the future. So let's start right here, Kenny. What do you got here?
Okay, I cracked 4 dozen eggs because that's how many eggs will go in my blender. Okay, so we cracked 4 dozen eggs and I blended them, and then I brought them over here and slowly dumped them into the dehydrator.
Okay, here's the...
And here they are. There's 4 layers.
4 trays.
Each layer takes about 1 dozen eggs, and we're going to cover these up and dehydrate them, and it takes about a day or so to dehydrate them.
What's the type of dehydrator?
It's a Nesco.
Nesco.
And I dehydrate them at about 136 degrees.
And how long does it take, Kenny?
And it takes about, a little over a day. 136, 138 degrees. And we're going to plug these in and get them going. Okay, now
That's the first step was the eggs. The second step was to blend them in the blender.
We're going to fast forward.
Went in the blender here.
Okay, here's some dehydrated eggs that we took off of there earlier today. Okay, now this is just a fraction of them. We're going to dump them in the blender. And we're going to turn them into a powder. Very important to get them into a powder. You don't want big chunks because they won't rehydrate properly.
So the hydration basically takes the water out of the eggs and makes it real dry.
Yeah.
And now we're going to blend it.
Now we're going to blend them up. Get the RPM coming up on it. You can hear the blender. Get them to that state.
They're at a powder now. Let's see the powder. Go ahead. No. Okay, look at the powder. Yeah, it's all powdered it now.
Now, then we sift it to get the larger particles out of it. Because even though you blend it, it doesn't turn it all to powder. There's some bigger particles in there that you don't want when you rehydrate. Then what I do is I shake them around. And those bigger clumps, I take a spoon and just kind of mash them around. Shake it around a little bit. And there we have it. Right there is 4 dozen eggs dehydrated.
Now show us a quart now. Show us.
Now what I do is I put them in jars. Let me grab a jar from behind you there, Gary. I don't know where Tracy put the half-gallon jars.
Well, let's just show it.
All right, we'll just put some in a quart for now.
Yeah.
There's a new quart jar.
Okay, Kenny, I don't think we need to actually see the putting it in a jar. If you pick up one of these jars and show us what you got,
Okay.
and then we'll end it right there. So you can see the number of jars and that he's done this. Now we saw the chickens yesterday, and they'll get sometimes 9 to a dozen eggs a day. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is 8 dozen eggs in this jar. We vacuum seal it, put an oxygen absorber in there, and you can see the lid is down. These things are good 7 to 10 years.
Okay, so let's say you're going to make breakfast with that for 2 of you. How much of it? Give us an idea of a spoon, because basically you're going to put it in water and rehydrate it, right?
Right. So what you want to do is get about a tablespoon for a couple of eggs, add a little bit of water, stir it up, let it sit there for a while, and then dump it in a pan and scramble it up just like you would any other egg.
And you've done that.
Yeah, and you can't taste the difference. You can't taste the difference between this and a fresh egg.
Well, yeah.
And this is something, there's, like I said, there's 8 dozen eggs in this half-a-gallon jar.
Now the idea is preserved for 7 to 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
see,
Kenny,
it's a powder.
Kenny, I'm going to ask you a little surprise question that we didn't go on. But Kenny, hey, I've got a question for you.
What do you got?
So, why are you doing this, Kenny?
Well, with the supply chain issues we're having and the farmers not growing stuff and being paid to plow their fields under, anything could happen. Anything could happen here in America and around the world. This could be a worldwide problem that we could be facing. And
tomorrow night.
And we all need to wake up to it. And people say, well, what if you don't use this stuff? Well, if nothing happens, then we'll have plenty of food that we can eat, and we won't have to go to the grocery store for months and months. Or we can give it away and help families that really need it.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing it, is to put back, you know, the Israelites in Egypt. If they wouldn't have came to Joseph and got the provisions from him because he interpreted the dream, they all would have perished, all of them. And the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine, that's a 14-year process they went through. That's unheard of. And yet they survived all of that. Could we be coming into that again? Could history be repeating itself? We don't know. But it's not looking good out there right now, so that's why we're doing what we're doing. We have an abundance of eggs, and instead of selling them, which we could run an ad and sell eggs by the dozen, we're just taking our abundance and putting them in jars, and I call this yellow gold.
Well, I don't know if you remember a couple of videos back from me, we talked about a victory garden that they had in the Second World War. And what this is basically a young man, 57 years old, still young, and his wife, who have decided that they're going to utilize every square inch of their property in a lot in urban Texas, and they're going to be prepared. Be prepared for whatever happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
The best we can.
Best you can. And so I'm going to end this now and say, please subscribe. Say goodbye, Kenny.
Bye. See y'all next time.